and welcome to this episode of Kennedy Saves the World. Well, we're certainly in a different spot today than we were a week ago, huh? We were in the middle of the RNC, and now we're in the middle of a completely different presidential race. Kamala Harris is the one who has been parachuted into the presidential ticket to save democracy by completely subverting it. And now, like good lapdogs, everyone is getting in line. They will be thrown treats to their faces very, very soon. And what is most interesting here is it was very curious that George Clooney raised $30 million in a big fundraiser for President Biden, and then just a short time later penned an op-ed saying he has to drop out of the race. He can't be at the top of the ticket. So this was the biggest favor he could have done for Kamala Harris because he raised a bunch of money for the Biden-Harris ticket, which the DNC couldn't release to any other candidate if they had had an open convention, which is what they were talking about when they were trying to unceremoniously force President Biden out of the White House. So they can give the money to Kamala Harris because she is on the ticket. So that was the easiest thing for them to do because, you know, they've got $200+ million that they were able to just sort of move over to her column. And then all the delegates got in line, Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro, anyone else who was even thinking about entering the open Hunger Games. They all endorsed Kamala Harris because they all know there's not enough time to establish an offense and a ground game in order to be really competitive with President Trump, who's raised a lot of money. And obviously, the race changed with his assassination attempt and the humanization effort that took place during the RNC that I thought, aside from his very long-winded speech, was very effective. So Kamala Harris is already vice president, and if she loses, no one really cares. If she wins, it'll be a big boost for Democrats, not necessarily a democracy, because now they know how to completely work around the system to change it, like flipping on a light switch and having everything shine on a brand new candidate and a brand new race. But before we move on, where is Joe Biden? Does this not seem strange to absolutely everyone? And so the press that became very skeptical after the debate, and they started wondering, what's wrong with the president? Why aren't they asking that now? Is no one really genuinely concerned for him? So there's only a couple things here. Either he is gravely ill, or he is so mad he refuses to go along with this because he was bullied off the ticket. The New York Post is reporting that he was threatened with the 25th Amendment and the entire cabinet was going to rise up and get him removed from office. So he went sheepishly with, the letter that was not on official letterhead with the curious signature, may or may not have been signed by him. And we have what Dana Perino called proof of life. We haven't seen the guy. We haven't heard from the guy. It's really just this vacuum that whispers tend to fill when you don't have straightforward information. So people should be concerned. If he has, served his country valiantly and been the great savior of our nation, then why aren't people more concerned with his well-being and his whereabouts? I think it's pretty gross that they have just turned the page and now everyone who was deeply concerned about a Kamala Harris candidacy 2 weeks ago, now they're like, oh my God, she's amazing. She's so presidential. Have you seen her on the stump over the last month? She is just incredible. What a firecracker. Actually, she's not. And if she submits herself to any rigorous questioning from real journalists, she'll say stupid things and wilt like she has in the past with Gwen Ifill and Lester Holt and anyone else who's been able to pin her down for an actual interview. Hopefully she won't just sit there for a round of softballs, but she probably will because, as you can imagine, with the administration that is still in place, they are going to try and micromanage her the way they did Biden. I hope that the press is just as skeptical of that Otherwise, if she wins, you're going to be stuck with an untested, unserious, damaged, overly authoritarian, super liberal president who could do great harm to the economy and to the reputation of the country.
Don't go anywhere. More Kennedy saves the world right after this.
So, there are two arguments. Either the presidency is way too strong and there's too much power concentrated in the executive branch, or the presidency means absolutely nothing and you don't have to worry about Joe Biden. If that's the case, then people who are on the fence should just vote for Donald Trump, because if the presidency isn't that strong, then you don't have much to worry about. But it is. And you've got someone like Kamala Harris who hates fracking. She's totally against it. She was all for the $10 trillion Green New Deal on steroids. She wants to do away with private health insurance, as she admitted during the 2020 campaign, her doomed campaign that was undone by a paragraph from Tulsi Gabbard. So there are many things that if she has both houses of Congress and uses her influence, could be incredibly detrimental to the economy long term. It also depends on who she decides should be the new Fed chair, which, and Secretary of the Treasury, because, she'll probably do away with Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen. Oh, no, does that mean I'll have to do more grocery shopping for myself? So the people that she puts in place, she's clearly a fan of DEI, so they may not be the best qualified. I mean, I imagine she is probably a huge fan of Kimberly Cheadle because she has all the answers, and she might enlist her as Secretary of Defense. There are a number of bad decisions she could make in terms of vice presidency and cabinet positions. But, the big question is, who does she put in as vice president? A lot of people are saying she should pick Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, because she would automatically have Pennsylvania. But that is a fracking state and an energy state. So there's an argument that the words that she has used to describe her disdain for fracking could come back to bite her in the keister, and she would lose Pennsylvania, which has become a very, very critical state for her. She could also pick Gretchen Whitmer and seal up Michigan, which has been a problem, but she is obviously way more pro-Palestine than Joe Biden and other mainstream Democrats. So Michigan could also go in her favor. So she may not need Gretchen at all. I do fear what her administration would look like. I think that, yes, she is a cackler and she's weird and incredibly socially awkward. I don't think those are reasons to not vote for her. Her record as Attorney General in California, it is abysmal. So you have an authoritarian who is an open border Democrat who also had no problem throwing people in prison for weed crimes and school truancy, and also keeping people in jail when she knew, a death row inmate was innocent, but also to make sure that they had free labor to fight California wildfires. Another issue that she also didn't help with at all whatsoever. So she is anti-freedom in every way imaginable in terms of immigration and taxation and the economy. I don't think she's serious or well-versed enough to even talk about inflation. I don't think she understands it. She wouldn't know supply-side economics if it came up and kissed her on the mouth, unless it was, of course, Willie Brown. And then she'd probably high-five him and be like, yeah, baby, thank you, sugar daddy. So we do have much to fear and much to discuss as a nation. I think this presidential contest will be closer than anyone thinks on either side. And like the last few races, it will probably be a toss-up within a couple of points, and will come down to those key states. We'll see how she does as a campaigner and what advice she follows. She doesn't have her own political instincts. Those are very, very bad. She rose up through the California unchallenged monoparty system. So that was really of no help. And she was tapped by Joe Biden because of her immutable characteristics, which also don't necessarily serve her when it comes to running the most powerful country in the world. So what's the verdict? We're doomed. This has been Kennedy Saves the World. I'm Kennedy.
Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app. Oh, go ahead and leave me a review while you're there. I'd love to hear what you have to say. You've been listening to Kennedy Saves the World on the Fox News Podcast Network.